Hello and welcome to the program Energy and You, a weekly news program that brings you developments in the energy space with focus on the Nigerian National Petroleum Company, NNPC Limited. I'm Erusa Igumbo. The show today updates you on the continued collaboration by NNPC Limited with stakeholders in arresting pipeline vandalism and crude oil theft. Calls are being made on the judiciary to accelerate justice delivery for an all-encompassing result. And experts applaud the decision on fuel subsidy removal. They encourage Nigerians to be patient for the long-term gains therein. We'll bring you details of these and more in a moment. Stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. Let's kick off the show with some top stories making the rounds in the energy space. Oil marketers in Nigeria are currently converting 800 trucks to start supplying gas to filling stations in order to dispense compressed natural gas (CNG) to vehicles that run on gas. The 800 tankers that formerly transported petrol to filling stations will dispense CNG to retail outlets. Conversion of pumps in selected filling stations that formerly dispensed petrol will be made to suit the CNG supply. The move followed the federal government's removal of subsidy on PMS in May. Oil prices fell by $2 at the start of the week, following U.S. focus on Fed rate decision. This comes ahead of a U.S. Federal Reserve meeting as investors try to gauge the central bank's appetite for further rate hikes. Concerns about China's fuel demand growth and rising Russian crude supply weighed on the markets. Brent crude futures fell $1.91 to $72.88 a barrel, while U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude was at $68.15 after falling by $2.02. Rich U.S. subsidies may hobble Canada's clean fuel efforts, as Canada's biofuels producers are threatening to build their next projects in the United States to cash in on rich subsidies for clean fuel and stay competitive. The move could cost Canada $7.5 billion of investment and undermine Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's efforts to build a greener economy. The fight against pipeline vandalism and crude oil theft has been a non-stop effort for the Nigerian National Oil Company. The collaborative efforts with a diverse group of stakeholders to mitigate the menace is ongoing. NNPC Limited recently participated at a 3-day conference which discussed and examined the security challenges mitigating the progress in the various sectors of the economy. The discussions also addressed how the judiciary and security agencies can work together to address the challenges. Take a look.
The conference was organized by the State Security Services in collaboration with the National Judicial Institute. It is the second in series of the National Security Conference. It brought together stakeholders from the different sectors of the economy. Participants, including justices of the Federation, security chiefs, and top management of NNPC Limited, were in attendance. In reference to the oil and gas sector, the Group CEO of NNPC Limited, Mr. Mele Kyari, delivered a speech on national security challenges, patterns, and countermeasures in the Nigeria oil and gas sector. He noted that oil theft and pipeline vandalism have become twin devils, bordering the smooth operations in the sector and affecting the Federation's cash flow.
There's a clear connection between, in today's context, and perhaps for a very while to come, between the continued safe operations of the oil and gas industry or the energy sector with the peace and security of this country. We deactivated 3,219 illegal refineries, 3,219 your lordships. We removed 3,010 connections to our pipeline. Illegal, I'll show you what this means. That means it's just anybody's guess. Imagine you are having 3,000. It's a nightmare. It's disaster.
Stakeholders brainstormed on ways the judiciary can strengthen its processes to aid in achieving national security under the theme, Legal Perspective to Overcoming Threats to National Security.
The military will be there, the security agencies will be there, they will make the arrest. But if you take a suspect to court, just like I said, the other time is very difficult before the judges, and then their hands are tied, like Justice Evladeva said, that they cannot do anything because you don't have anything before, and then you'll be constrained to release the suspect to go. The JIC is the one assisting. If suspect is arrested, they will conduct the investigation in situ, that is there and then they will compile the case file and then submit to the Ministry of Justice. I think with this synergy, we will go.
What are we as judges expected to do when issue of national security is involved? The Supreme Court was very, very emphatic because of the importance of national security. The Supreme Court said where national security is threatened, or there is a real likelihood of it being threatened, human right or individual right of those responsible should take second place. So when you are dealing with national security, it's all encompassing. It's very, very important. The question of human right, the question of this and that should take second place because security of the nation is more paramount.
At the point of lawmaking, whether it's terrorism or whatever, we should factor these things. That somebody can hide somewhere, give evidence, and not the regular laws that we use every day. That give this man his liberty, don't take this from him. These are some of the things. When they do public hearing, your legal department should prepare some of these things and present it to the lawmakers and show them that these clauses should be there in the law so that the judges themselves, of course, you know that when they sit in court is to interpret what is before them and not to create a new one to add there.
Kerry further disclosed that more results have been recorded with the discovery of 3,219 illegal refineries and 3,010 illegal connections on the company's pipeline. He reiterated the commitment of the company to continue to secure crude oil pipelines against vandals, stressing that security in the oil and gas sector is key to ensuring national security as the sector generates over 50% of government's revenue. He therefore called on participants who are mainly prosecutors and judges in both the security and judicial sectors to assist the company in ensuring that this mayhem is dealt with and eradicated from the country by expediting justice delivery.
Let's now bring you an update on the war on crude oil theft.
From Olodiama and Otuasega in Bayelsa State to Akwa Odogwa in River State and in the creeks in Warri Delta State, the war on crude oil theft is on, and the industry-wide security collaboration continues to record remarkable progress. Between the 3rd and 9th of June 2023, a total of 220 incidents were recorded. 65 illegal connections were uncovered, while 74 illegal refineries were discovered and destroyed. 34 automatic identification system infractions were flagged using NNPC's maritime intelligence system and have been escalated to the Navy through NNPC's incidents management and reporting application. 18 cases of pipeline vandalism were also recorded and are being repaired. 17 wooden boats used to convey stolen crude were confiscated in the past week in Rivers, Delta and Bayelsa states, while 6 cases of oil spill were discovered in Nanabie and Abuloma and also in Bayelsa state. All are being addressed. 125 of these incidents were recorded in the central region of the Niger Delta, 49 were recorded in the eastern region, while 12 took place in the western part of the Niger Delta's oil-producing region and 3 in the deep blue water. For NNPC Limited, there is no backing down on the war on crude oil theft until the menace is eradicated for good.
The decision taken to remove subsidy on fuel by President Tinubu in his inauguration day speech has continued to generate reactions among Nigerians. But stakeholders, including NNPC Limited, have continued to educate and sensitize citizens on the long-term benefits of the decision. Various groups and individuals commend the federal government for the necessary steps taken in that regard. Here with us is Professor Uche Waleke, Professor of Capital Market and Finance, Nasarawa State University. He believes the move by the federal government is a laudable one. Thank you very much, Professor, for joining us on the program.
My pleasure, Ifosa. Thanks for inviting me.
Now, as the finance expert, I think the most pertinent question to ask you would be, do you agree to the fuel subsidy removal?
It's been my position all along, and I also thought that the drop we had in the international crude oil price in 2016 and also in 2020 offered an opportunity to take out the fuel subsidy. Unfortunately, the previous administration missed that golden opportunity. He also noticed that on the day of the inauguration, after the inaugural speech, the day after the inaugural speech, following the announcement that subsidy was going to be removed, following the announcement that multiple exchange rates were going to be merged, what happened? The stock market went up by 5.2%. Even the international capital market, our sovereign bonds also rallied. Okay, so what that tells you is that this is something also that the international community has been expecting. This is something that investors, are also looking, forward to.
Let me butt in here that, many people have complained in some quarters really about the timing of this, particularly, when you look at how much is being spent monthly, about 400 billion naira monthly to subsidize for petrol. Do you think that there could have been any other better time than this?
We can't continue to shoulder this burden, all right? The more you have these subsidies, the more you put yourself into financial crisis, okay? So we have to have a way to get out of this subsidy. And if you also look at it critically, and some analysis, show that it is not even something that is benefiting the poor. The critical analysis will tell you that it's even the rich that are, benefiting from these subsidies. There's a study by the World Bank that says, that shows that I think 20% of the wealthy people in low and middle income countries buy 6 times as much, use 6 times as much fuel than the poor. So it is something that's actually benefiting the rich. All right, so that's why we say that fuel subsidy is regressive. Regressive, and then as I said, when you take a look at it holistically, the conclusion you will come to is that this is the time. It's time we made our way with fuel subsidy. It's in the interest of the economy. I'm not even talking about the environmental issues around it. I'm not even talking about even the corruption associated with it. Okay, today you hear that if fuel subsidy goes, for example, consumption suddenly drops by 30%. I'm sure you saw those numbers. So that tells you that has always represented, an avenue for corruption. So when you remove subsidy, for example, on consumption, and you plow it in some other areas, productive areas, to me, that's the way to go.
Well, Prof, I'm sure you know that, in every change, that there must be pain before, of course, the gain starts to come in. But while we, anxiously wait for the gains, what would you recommend as measures, immediate measures to cushion the impact of this policy?
Yes. I just told you the rich benefits more than the poor, but that doesn't mean the poor also don't benefit, okay? Through cost of transportation, for example, if you take it out today, it is going to result in high inflation. Inflation rate will go up. Absolutely. Particularly when you're also looking at these other reforms that will accompany it. Central bank, the president is saying, multiple exchange rates will go. And that will mean devaluing the naira. So you devalue the naira on the one hand, you're also taking out fuel subsidy on the other hand, all at one time. There is no doubt that it will bring about, some, pains. So the question now is, how do we mitigate the pains, likely fallout? Engagements are already going on, which is also what I support. There should be stakeholder engagements. As we speak, I understand Labour, is engaging the government on this issue. But what Labour is bringing to the table, I've read the demands by the, TUC in particular, one of which is increase minimum wage by 200,000 minimum, 200,000 naira. Now, in my view, I don't think that is feasible now, okay, given the finances of the government, number one, and also that of the subnationals, the state governments. Compensation measures the government should put in place to cushion the impact of the fuel subsidy removal. And I'm sure the president is well aware of that. I hear him talk about, cushioning palliatives and so on. So part of the money they are going to get from the World Bank, the $800 million, is also going to be plowed into this cushioning, okay? And no longer, in my view, it shouldn't be just shared, as cash under the conditional cash transfers, scheme. It should be put into, a scheme that will help to cushion the impact. Compensation measures in the area of education, for example, the government can ensure that maybe skill acquisition centers are set up. Okay, compensation measures in the area of health. Today, the health national health insurance scheme, the coverage is less than 5%. So they can also think of expanding that scheme such that a lot more Nigerians can benefit from that scheme. Because the problem Nigerians have actually is the fact that the money you earn, okay, at the end of the day, you end up spending it on things that ordinarily, if there was government intervention, you wouldn't be spending them. For example, this health insurance scheme, if I know that if I go to hospital, for example, I may not have to spend much. If I'm sending my child to school, the basic education is free. So once my out-of-pocket expense is reduced, okay, then the impact of this fuel subsidy, removal, can be mitigated. So we need to say compensation measures, as I said. If you look at what other countries are doing, those that have also removed subsidy, compensation measures come in the area of education, health, and sustainable jobs. These are the three areas the government should be looking at.
Well, Prof, it's interesting to hear you say these things, particularly with arguments, that over time that the prices will drop because, this policy is going to open up the market for competition. But then again, looking at the indices on the ground, how feasible is this? And how soon do you think that this, benefits can begin to...
Well, I see some, if you like, silver lining, in the cloud, in the sense that, one, we have the Dangote refinery, 650,000, capacity, and then our refineries too. Right. Let me even say upfront that the long-run solution to this is also getting our refineries to work. Okay, if we have refineries that have capacity of 425,000 barrels, we add that to Dangote, we should be self-sufficient in this country in terms of refining fuel. Yeah. Okay, now, how soon will that happen? Again, it depends on how fast we are able to open up the space, particularly the downstream sector. The Petroleum Industry Act, Section 122, makes it very clear that the price of fuel should reflect the cost. That means that it doesn't recognize subsidy. Okay, and that is the incentive. That is what will open up the sector for investors to come in. Because when you are subsidizing fuel, it doesn't give the private person, the motivation, to bring in business here. So, but if you allow the pricing to be competitive, okay, it is that competition that will eventually drive down price in the medium to long term. We saw that in the telecom sector. Okay, so as we open up the sector, as we have more people come into this and play in that space, there will be competition. So you now have a monopolistic competition kind of market structure that will further drive down the price. So today it may be high. It's high because you still don't have many people playing. But if you open up the space and more people come in, we'll have a lot more. Apart from even the big players, we get to a point where we have a lot more modular refineries, functional. You can bet that the price of this product will eventually come down.
The price of the product will eventually come down. That's a very good place to drop the anchor at this point. Thank you very much, Professor, for joining me on the program. Well, I've been speaking with Professor Uche Uwaleke, Professor of Capital Markets and Finance, Nasarawa State University. Still ahead, NNPC Limited restates its commitment to the safety of its staff, business communities, and the environment as it celebrates the 2023 World Environmental Day. Details in a moment. Stay with us. June 5 every year is set aside to commemorate World Environment Day. As the world mapped this year's celebration, the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited was not left out in this essential awareness.
The World Environment Day is an annual event that was introduced in 1972 by the United Nations General Assembly to mark the opening of Stockholm Conference. The event is widely celebrated globally for positive environmental action that stimulates awareness on the environment to encourage political action and attention. For the year 2023, the World Environment Day was hosted by Côte d'Ivoire in partnership with the Netherlands. The day, themed Finding Solutions to the Issue of Plastic Pollution, was marked by the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited with its staff in attendance virtually. The group CEO, Mr. Akmele Kyari, who was represented by the Executive Vice President, Business Services, Mr. Inuwa Danladi, stated that the company maintained a waste management policy established to manage the waste stream generated from its activities using the best technology to protect its employees, stakeholders, and the environment at large. The group CEO also reiterated NNPC Limited's commitment towards continuous improvement on waste management practice by employing the principles of the 3 Rs, that is, reduce, reuse, and recycle, in order to achieve Goal Zero of no harm to the people and environment in its operations.
At NNPC, we are committed through our waste management policy to manage the waste streams generated from our activities using the best available modern technology to protect employees, stakeholders, and the environment. We are inclined towards continual improvement in our waste management practice by employing the principle of the 3 Rs: reduce, reuse, and recycle.
He pointed out that there are several actions on waste management currently maintained by the company, among which is hazardous waste such as electronic waste, and as part of its strategies, efforts are ongoing for the development of greenhouse emission framework at the company facilities. Mr. Kyari further stated that as a matter of adherence to best practices, regulations, guidelines, and procedures, many of its business units have obtained the ISO 14001-2015 certification in environmental management system, and with more to come. He also stated that the company is in compliance with the Environmental Impact Assessment Act of 1992, upstream, midstream, and downstream regulations, and the National Environmental Regulations 2009. The group CEO reiterated that with the advent discovery of OXO biodegradable plastic, which degrades completely within 6 months without harmful residues, could be explored as sustainable alternative to positive change to reduce the pollution of plastic in our environment. While giving the instance of switching from the use of plastic bags to paper bags, Kyari concluded that all stakeholders must think globally and act locally, even as he added that public enlightenment and awareness are also key factors to combating the menace of plastic pollution.
This year, we implore individuals, household, and community to think globally and act locally by combating the menace of plastic pollution. We can start from ourselves by limiting the usage of plastic with alternative paper bags for shopping and other forms of packaging materials. Public enlightenment and awareness are key factors in eliminating this menace.
That's all on Energy and You. Join us again next week for another interesting episode. You can follow us on all our social media handles showing on your screen for more information and education on the activities of the Nigerian National Petroleum Company, NNPC Limited. Thank you for watching. I'm Egusa Igumbo. Bye for now.